I turned 33 tonight, and the city lights below my penthouse window glittered like they were celebrating with me. The truth? They were the only ones who were. The table was set for 10. White candles, gold-rimmed glasses, and a cake that cost more than my first month's rent back when I could barely afford to dream. I wore a silk emerald dress that hugged me in all the right places, my hair pinned perfectly. Everything was ready, except the people. The group chat was silent. Not a single on my way. My phone screen glowed only with a soft reminder. Happy birthday, Madison. Even Siri remembered. My so-called friends? Not so much. I forced a smile at my reflection in the glass door. Well, happy birthday to me, I whispered, raising a glass of champagne that had already gone flat. The bubbles were gone, just like their promises to never miss it this year. Then my phone buzzed again. For a second, I hoped it was someone apologizing, maybe even showing up. But no, it was a bank notification. Incoming transfer, $75,000. I stared at the screen, then laughed. A quiet, ironic laugh that echoed off the marble floors. They forgot my birthday, but my clients didn't forget my invoice. So maybe the party was empty, but my wallet wasn't. And as I leaned against the window, watching the city hum beneath me, I realized something. Sometimes silence is just the sound of peace arriving late. 5 years ago, birthdays were different. Not glamorous, just noisy, messy, and crowded. My mother would host them at her house in Ohio, where everything smelled like baked casseroles and tension. That last one, my 28th, still stings when I think about it. Everyone was there, my parents, my brother, his fiancée, my old college friends. The laughter that night wasn't kind. It had edges. So, Maddie, my brother grinned, carving into the cake. How's that business going? Still pretending to be an entrepreneur? The table erupted in chuckles. I tried to laugh it off, but my throat tightened. I'd just lost my second investor that week. My handmade jewelry line, something I'd built from nothing, was hanging by a thread. It's going fine, I said, steadying my voice. Slow progress, but progress. Sweetheart, my mother cut in, smiling the kind of smile that made me feel small. Maybe it's time to think practically. You're not 22 anymore. A steady job, maybe a husband. Those things matter more than dreams. Dreams. She said it like it was a dirty word. I remember gripping the edge of my plate, my palms slick. Every laugh, every pitying glance, it all burned into me. I wanted to scream, "Why can't you just believe in me once?" But all I managed was a quiet nod. After dinner, my grandmother found me outside, sitting on the porch steps, mascara streaking my cheeks. She was the only one who'd ever seen me without my armor. She placed something small and worn into my hands, a vintage leather wallet. "It was mine," she said softly. "It's not for money. It's for reminders. Keep something inside it that proves who you are when the world forgets." I opened it. Inside was a faded photo of her as a young woman, standing proudly beside a tiny sewing shop. "Everyone laughed at me too," she whispered. "Until they didn't." That night, I packed my things. I left Ohio with nothing but a box of unsold jewelry, that old wallet, and a promise to myself. The next time they laughed, it would be from the other side of success. I didn't have a plan, just fire. The kind that doesn't burn out, even when the world goes cold. The first year after leaving Ohio was brutal. I rented a cramped studio in Chicago with a single window that looked out onto a brick wall. My jewelry supplies sat in cardboard boxes, stacked beside an air mattress that hissed a slow leak every night. I didn't have much, just Wi-Fi, determination, and that leather wallet sitting on my desk like a silent coach. I spent my mornings cold emailing boutiques, afternoons stringing beads until my fingers blistered, and nights watching online business tutorials until my eyes burned. Rejection became routine. Sometimes, I'd reread old text messages from my mother, full of "still time to come home" and "you need stability, Madison." Each one fueled me more. My first break came from a stranger, Evelyn Carter. She ran a small lifestyle store downtown and bought 5 of my pieces on consignment. "You've got taste," she said, examining my necklace under the shop light. "But more importantly, you've got grit." Don't lose that. Evelyn became more than a client. She became my mentor. She taught me about branding, pricing, and patience. You're not selling jewelry, she said once. You're selling confidence. And you've got plenty to spare. You just forgot. Months turned into years. I started an Etsy shop, then my own website. Orders trickled in, then poured. By the time I turned 30, I had my first viral post. An influencer wore my necklace on a morning show. Overnight, I sold out. Success didn't feel glamorous at first. It felt quiet, lonely even. I'd come home from shipping packages at midnight, collapse on my couch, and eat leftover takeout while replying to customer emails. There were no celebrations, no family phone calls, just the hum of my laptop and the faint ache of my fingers. But there was pride too, raw and electric. The first time I framed my company's incorporation papers, I slipped a copy inside that old wallet. Proof that I wasn't the failure they thought I'd be. Over the next few years, I expanded: new designs, new hires, international clients. I moved into a real apartment with sunlight and a view. Evelyn would visit sometimes, bringing coffee and advice. They'll come around eventually, she said once. They always do when success smells like money. She wasn't wrong. Around that time, my brother started liking my business posts online. My mother began texting, "So proud of you," with extra emojis, as if she could erase years of disbelief with digital hearts. I didn't respond much. I wasn't bitter, just careful. By the time I launched Madison Claire Designs officially, my net worth was quietly climbing. I stayed low-key, posting modest updates, avoiding interviews. Nobody needed to know the numbers, least of all them. Still, sometimes, late at night, I'd pull out that leather wallet and touch the old photo tucked inside. My grandmother's smile reminded me why I started. Not for validation, not for revenge, but for that little girl sitting on a porch in Ohio who finally decided to believe in herself when nobody else did. 3 years later, I returned to Ohio for the first time since that night on the porch. It wasn't planned. My brother's wife had sent a message in the old family group chat. "Mom's organizing a family dinner. You should come. Everyone's asking about you." Everyone, I thought, smiling faintly. The same everyone who had once laughed while I held back tears. Still, I went. Not for them, but for closure. When I arrived, the scene was exactly as I remembered. The same wooden dining table, the same faint scent of pot roast and nostalgia. Except now, their laughter stopped the moment I walked in. "Maddie," my mother gasped, pulling me into a hug that felt half genuine, half nervous. "You look incredible." I did. The black satin blouse, gold watch, and tailored pants weren't an accident. Neither was the designer handbag I set on the counter, one from my own luxury collaboration. My brother's wife noticed first, eyes widening. "Wait, Madison Claire?" "As in Madison Claire Designs?" she asked. I smiled. The same. The silence that followed was delicious. My father cleared his throat. My brother blinked, as if trying to process that the sister he once mocked was now the woman behind a brand his wife probably followed online. "So," my mother began, forcing a laugh. "You've done well for yourself." "I have," I replied evenly. "Business is good. I just expanded into international markets last quarter." My brother gave a low whistle. "Wow. That's big. Guess the jewelry thing worked out, huh?" "Guess so." I could have left it there. But something inside me wanted them to see, not just hear, what they had underestimated. So I invited them to visit my studio in Chicago the following week. They came. And when they stepped into the glass-walled space overlooking the river, surrounded by displays of gold, silver, and precious stones, their faces said everything words couldn't. "Is this all yours?" my father whispered. "Every inch," I said, gesturing toward the framed milestones on the wall. My first sale receipt, my incorporation certificate, my grandmother's photograph. From the ground up. They wandered slowly, touching displays like they were afraid to break something sacred. My brother stopped at the photo. "That's Grandma, right?" "Yes," I said quietly. "She believed in me when no one else did. She gave me that wallet." I pointed to the glass case near my desk where the same worn leather wallet sat, preserved like a relic. "That's where it all started." My mother turned toward me, guilt softening her face. Maddie, I didn't realize. I just wanted you to be safe. I know, I said. But safe and small aren't the same thing. We stood there for a long moment, no shouting, no defensiveness. Just silence, thick with realization. Before they left, my brother asked, "So, how big is this business, really?" I smiled, opening my laptop and turning the screen toward him. The balance sheet spoke louder than I ever could. His jaw slackened. "Madison, you're independent." I finished for him. And happy. That night, after they left, I sat in my office with the city lights reflecting off the glass. The same glow I'd seen years ago on that lonely birthday. Only this time, I wasn't alone, not inside. They finally saw who I'd become. The girl they laughed at was gone. In her place stood a woman who had turned pain into purpose and silence into gold. A week after the studio visit, I got a call from my brother. He sounded uneasy, the way people do when pride is about to be swallowed. "Hey, Maddie, listen, I was wondering if you could help me out," he said. "My business, well, it's struggling. I just need a little loan to get through the quarter." I leaned back in my office chair, eyes tracing the Chicago skyline through the window. "A loan?" I repeated. "Just temporary," he rushed. "You've done so well, and I'd pay you back, of course. It's just things have been tough." I let the silence hang for a few seconds before answering. "You remember that birthday years ago? When you asked how my pretend business was going?" He groaned softly. "Maddie, come on, I was kidding." "I know," I said, cutting him off gently. "And I'm not angry. But if I'm going to help you, it won't be a handout. It'll be an investment, with conditions." "Conditions?" "Yes. I'll help you, but only if you hire a financial advisor, stop gambling on short-term trends, and actually commit to learning how to run your company instead of winging it." He was quiet for a long time, then sighed. "All right, deal." Next came Mom. She called the same evening, her voice soft and hesitant. "Madison, honey, I just wanted to say how proud I am of you. And I wanted to ask if you'd consider helping your father. His retirement fund, well, we didn't plan well." My chest tightened. For a moment, I flashed back to every word she'd said to me about being practical and knowing my limits. But bitterness had no place here. Growth meant balance. "I'll help," I said, "but only if you two agree to something in return." "Of course, anything," she said quickly. "No more talking down anyone's dreams, mine or anyone else's. You both built your lives on safety, and that's fine. But don't kill other people's courage because it doesn't look like your version of success." She was quiet, and I could hear her sniffling softly. "You're right, sweetheart. We were wrong." I smiled faintly. "Then we're even." By the end of the week, I'd helped my brother set up a consultation and restructured my parents' budget myself. Not because they deserved it, but because I did. Because forgiveness was power too. That weekend, I hosted a dinner at my apartment, the same one where no one had shown up 2 years before. This time, the seats were full. My family talked, laughed, and listened. Not the shallow kind of laughter that hides judgment. The real kind, stitched together with respect. As the night wound down, I made a quiet toast. To lessons learned, and to remembering that silence isn't rejection. Sometimes it's just space to grow. They clinked glasses. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the outsider at my own table. The weeks after that dinner felt lighter, like the air had finally cleared after years of holding my breath. My family wasn't perfect, but they were trying. My mother called just to ask how my day was, not what I was planning next. My brother sent updates about his business, proud of small wins. And my father, who'd barely spoken during those old arguments, sent me a handwritten note that read, "You proved what we forgot to believe in." I didn't cry reading it, but my throat ached. Because it wasn't just about being seen, it was about being understood. One Sunday morning, I drove out to the lake alone. The city skyline shimmered in the distance, sunlight glinting off the water like melted gold. I brought the old wallet with me, the one Grandma had given me. The leather was softer now, edges worn smooth from time and touch. Inside it, along with her photo, I'd tucked a folded check. The one from that $75,000 client payment on my 33rd birthday. The day everyone forgot me, but the universe didn't. I sat on a bench, the autumn wind tugging gently at my hair, and thought about how strange growth is. How the same silence that once hurt me had become my peace. How the same people who doubted me had become part of my strength. Grandma's words echoed in my mind. Keep something inside that wallet that proves who you are when the world forgets. I smiled, sliding the photo and the check back inside. Proof collected. Lesson complete. My phone buzzed, a text from my mom. Dinner next week? Your brother's cooking. No excuses this time. I laughed softly, typing back. Wouldn't miss it. Before leaving, I looked out at the water one last time. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was running from my past or trying to prove something. I just was. Independent. Whole. Enough. As I walked back to my car, I whispered to myself, the kind of quiet declaration meant only for the wind. They forgot my birthday, but I'll never forget the day I stopped waiting for them to show up. And this time, I didn't toast to anyone else. I toasted to me. Bottom of form.